And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we're talking about the most recent NBA draft buzz around the Chicago Bulls as they work out center Joan Beringer. Next, we're going to be talking about ESPN and their most recent mock draft that has the Chicago Bulls linked to some centers. And so before we go ahead and we jump into that, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And let's start here with Joan Beringer working out for the Chicago Bulls ahead of this upcoming NBA draft. And so if you want to go check this out, you can go over to Hoops Hype. Once again, this is where you can see the updated list of prospects that have worked out for teams. And so when you go over to the Chicago Bulls, you will see that Joan Beringer has now been added to the list with Asa Newell, then Jaeger Dimum. You see Carter Bryant along with Danny Wolf and Drake Powell. And so those are the most notable names. And so this is huge because really we had not seen or heard too much about the Chicago Bulls really working out any prospects that were slated to go into the first round here where they're picking. And now we're starting to see more players are popping up. And so this is great to see now that maybe we have an indication of which direction the Chicago Bulls are wanting to go in. Nobody really knows until we get to draft night, which we're going to find out come Wednesday. But let's look at Joan Beringer because I like Joan Beringer a lot. I think that really, if you're looking at upside, I think that with Joan Beringer, he is certainly a player that I'm willing to bet on his upside. So if you're not familiar with him, he is 18 years old. He is 6'11". He has a 7'4" wingspan, and he's coming in at 230. He averaged 9.2 points per game, 2.9 blocks per game, 8.1 rebounds. He shot 60% from the free throw line, 59% from the field, and that was on 6.6 field goal attempts. And so the very first thing that I like about him is defense. I think that his defense for a center, in my opinion, it was spectacular. I think that when you look at the highlight clips, he looks like a player that is literally a guard, but at the center position. He looks like a player that could play 1 to 5 as far as being able to switch out on all of those players. I think that him getting out to, a center that is going to be perimeter based, he can certainly move there. He shows that he has the lateral quickness to make adjustments and make his reads and get back, if he gets picked or anything like that or screened or whatnot. And so I think he can definitely be a player that will find his way defensively there as far as the lateral quickness and the awareness. And then I just love his high motor. Like, he plays with a ton of effort. It just looks like that in these highlights, in his game footage, man, he is just playing so hard. And I love the fact too that from a shot blocker standpoint, that is exactly what you are going to get here from Joan Beringer. This is a player that will certainly protect the rim, and I like that mobility with him because, again, with that mobility, that means that he will be able to slide over and hopefully erase the mistakes here, especially if you're not very good at the perimeter defending. And so I like that with Joan Beringer. Next, with the offense, I like it as far as the fit with the Chicago Bulls because I think that he is a huge lob threat. And I'm talking about like Lob City, DeAndre Jordan type of stuff. Like, this guy is going to be that type of player that is going to catch the lobs. And the added bonus with Joan Beringer is that quickness on defense. You also see it on offense. Like, this is a player that he's not just going to sit around and wait for you to just lob it to him. He will run the floor with you and put himself in position to get the basketball to go in for a slam. And so I love that about him. And you just have to love the fit with the Chicago Bulls if they decide to go that way, because that's what they want to do. They want to get up and down the floor. And so I think that Josh Giddey Kobe White, Lonzo Ball. I think that any of these guards would love to play with Johan Beringer. And so the next thing with him is I think that just from a playmaking standpoint, it wasn't anything spectacular, but I think that he has good floor awareness. And I think he understands like rotations and defenses and stuff like that. He understands where the doubles are. And so he will try to pass out of that. And I like that also, too, from just an understanding of where to be, he knows how to rotate for that pocket pass as well. And so he has some great hands and great awareness to put himself in position to be successful. And so I like the fact that he's showing a bit of a good basketball IQ here. And so, again, I think that you're really banking on the upside because I just want to really reiterate this, that he is certainly raw. Like it is going to take him some time to develop into the complete game that he may have, because he's only been playing basketball, I believe, for 3 years, something that I saw there. And so this is a player that is just relatively new to where he is in basketball. And this just tells you just how good he has gotten over the course of time here. And so he needs to get better with his shot mechanics. He needs to get stronger as well. You wonder, can he expand that offense as well? And so that's possible, but again, he'd have to get better with the shot mechanics. But anyway, I think it's a great sign here that the Chicago Bulls are looking at the front court. And so that leads us to the next point. And I think that this is really why this workout potentially makes sense. And you just wonder here with this next piece, because the new ESPN mock draft has the Chicago Bulls linked to a center. They also have them going ahead and taking Kasparas Jakucionis, which we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to talk about what was said here with the Chicago Bulls really focusing, or their thought is around some of these centers here. And so again, you can go over to ESPN.com. You can look at this most recent mock draft if you want. And so within this is the entire piece that you can see within this article. And so I'm just going to go first to the part where it's talking about the front court here for the Chicago Bulls. And it says that Chicago has a more glaring need in the front court with Nikola Vucevic on the final year of his deal, and no bigs with or are considered, a long-term keepers. And it says that Joan Beringer, Derik Queen, Danny Wolf, and then also to Thomas Sorber are all thought to be amongst the centers they'll be interested in, or they consider. And so, again, that's what they're saying here in this mock draft. And so it's just the thought that the Chicago Bulls would be interested in these players. And look, I mean, we've already talked about the fact that Johan Beringer did work out with the Chicago Bulls, and we know that Danny Wolf has worked out with the Chicago Bulls. So perhaps maybe there is the thinking that, yes, Thomas Sorber and then also to Derik Queen are on the Chicago Bulls radar. We'll find out again come Wednesday. But I like the thinking here. If the Chicago Bulls are looking to go with the front court again, I just think that, you get a lot of different things here, because I think that with Danny Wolf, I think that you get a player that he can definitely play the center / power forward position. I think he's going to be a player that stretches the floor a little bit more. And then with Derik Queen, look, I know that the size is probably an issue there, and he hasn't necessarily worked out as well, or at least that's what the reports are. And for some reason, kind of slipping down boards. But then again, he's been going back up them. And so who knows? I just think that when you look at Derik Queen and the fact that he's just a winner, in my opinion, I think that he's a player that he could translate. And I think that he's more like an Elton Brand type of player. And I've talked about this before with Elton Brand. I think that he was a great pro for us when he was with the Chicago Bulls. And he was terrific just when he was in the NBA, for his total career. So he had a nice long career. And then also, too, I see a little bit of Alperen Sengun with him. And so I think that he's definitely a player I would love to see the Bulls take a chance on. And then also, too, with Thomas Sorber, going back to him, I think that with Thomas Sorber, he's the defensive presence that I think the Chicago Bulls would certainly want. And I think that out of all four players, to me, I would have to put Thomas Sorber right there with I would say Johan Beringer. And I would say probably with Sorber, it's a little bit more safer with the, just where he's starting because he's done it already here at a high level in college. I know with the injuries and everything like that, it kind of cut a little bit short. But again, going back to what I was saying with Johan Beringer, you're really banking on the upside and you're banking on the fact that that's going to translate into the NBA. And I think with Thomas Sorber, you definitely could see that more immediately pay off as far as the rim protection and what he brings. And I think that it's really undervalued what he can do as far as his face-up game, because you will see plays where he does turn and face and knock down shots. He's also had the ability to go to the free throw line. And I've seen where he's made a three-pointer and the shot mechanics aren't bad. I think it's something where he has to trust that shot a little bit more. And so we'll see what happens. I think that really between Derik Queen and also to Johan Beringer, and then also to with Thomas Sorber, those are players that I wonder, can they expand their game out a little bit more? But I like the thinking if the Chicago Bulls are going in this direction for centers here. And so you guys let me know what you guys are thinking there. And before we go on and we move to some bonus content here, I just want to go back to also to Kasparas Jakucionis. And so, with Kasparas Jakucionis, like, I don't think that this would necessarily be, a bad pick in the sense of what he could possibly bring to a team. In fact, I mean, when you look at the numbers, 15 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 1 steal, 0.3 with the blocks, 44% from the field, and 31.8 from three. And so I think that he has a great feel for the game. I think he can be a shot creator. I like his pull-up jumper in it. I think he has a overall tough game, and he's crafty with the way that he finishes. Now, he's not a guy that is going to come in and dunk or anything like that. And I think that you're banking on the fact that he could guard 1 to 3. I'd say for a player comp, what I had him down for is Brandon Przinski that plays for the Golden State Warriors. And then also, too, I could see him maybe turning into a little bit of a Kevin Huerter type of player as well. But the issue here is that the Chicago Bulls have just an abundance of guards. And I would say that if the Chicago Bulls were to shake it up, maybe make a trade and get rid of some of the guards, then I could see that maybe he would be a good fit for you there. But I just think that the Bulls really need to focus on the front court. And so that leads me to the last part and just really a little bit of a bonus, so to speak. And that is the latest news with the Chicago Bulls, as it looks like that Javon Carter is going to be coming back to the Chicago Bulls. He picked up his player option, or he's going to pick up his player option of $6.8 million. And this was something that was reported by Jake L. Fisher of the Stein Line, where he was reporting that Jevon Carter is expected to go ahead and pick up this $6.8 million deal that he has left there. And so, look, I don't think that that's anything that's too much of a surprise, and I don't think that it's anything that really holds the Chicago Bulls back as far as what they want to do. I think at this point in time, when you look at Jevon Carter, he's a guy that provided, I think, just really a veteran presence. And I think that when Billy Donovan needed him, he was able to step in there. I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's not anything spectacular with the 4.3 points, 0.4 steals, 0.1 blocks, 1.1 assists, 1.1 rebounds, 80% from the free throw line, and 33% from downtown, and 37.7% from the field. With a $6.8 million contract, 1 year, essentially it's expiring. He can be thrown into a deal and be moved. So I don't think that it's anything that is going to hold the Chicago Bulls back that way. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But that is the most recent news here around the Chicago Bulls, is that Jevon Carter will in fact be picking up the $6.8 million contract that he has left there on that player option. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about all this draft buzz here. As like I said before, ESPN has the Chicago Bulls linked to liking some of these centers here, and definitely some centers that I think would help the Chicago Bulls in the front court. And also, too, let me know what you guys are thinking here about this most recent information, as we now see that Johan Beringer has officially worked out for the Chicago Bulls. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.